Never judge a man's actions until you know his motives, Vikas Swarup. In a promise, what you thought, and not what you said, is always to be considered. Marcus Tullius Cicero. What makes life dreary is the want of a motive, George Eliot. It is futile to judge a kind deed by its motives. Kindness can become its own motive. We are made kind by being kind, Eric Hoffer. The most heinous and cruelest crimes of which history has recorded have been committed under the cover of religion or equally noble motives. Mahatma Gandhi. We are all selfish, and I no more trust myself than others with a good motive. Lord Byron. Never complain and never explain. Benjamin Disraeli. Faith is the great motive power, and no man realizes his full possibilities unless he has the deep conviction that life is eternally important and that his work well done is a part of an unending plan. Calvin Coolidge. Patriotism is an ephemeral motive that scarcely ever outlasts the particular threat to society that aroused it. Dennis Diderot. The difference there is betwixt honor and honesty seems to be chiefly the motive. The mere honest man does that from duty which the man of honor does for the sake of character. William Shenstone. It is motive alone that gives real value to the actions of men, and disinterestedness puts the cap to it. Jean de la Bruyere. Who sweeps a room, as for thy laws, makes that in the action fine. George Herbert. No labor is hard, no time is long, wherein the glory of eternity is the mark we level at. Francis Quarles. The impulse to perform a worthy action often springs from our best nature but is afterward tainted by the spur of selfishness or sinister interest. Emile Silvestre. No man does anything from a single motive. Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Whenever a man does a thoroughly stupid thing, it is always from the noblest motives. Oscar Wilde. If your motives are high and noble, your work is hard and you do a good job, then whatever the task is in your life, it will benefit you. Frederick Lenz. It's motive alone that gives character to the actions of men. Jean de la Bruyere. How to gain, how to keep, how to recover happiness is in fact for most men at all times the secret motive of all they do, and of all they are willing to endure. William James. We must not inquire too curiously into motives. They are apt to become feeble in the utterance, the aroma is mixed with the grosser air. We must keep the germinating grain away from the light. George Eliot. Everything pertaining to what's happening has never come to the surface. The world will never know the true facts of what occurred, by motives. The people who had so much to gain, and had such an ulterior motive for putting me in the position I'm in, will never let the true facts come above board to the world. Jack Ruby. The main question is not what motive inspired the law, but what it will be possible for men of bad motive to do with the law. Benjamin Tucker. Never ascribe to an opponent motive meaner than your own. James M. Barrie. Motives are symptoms of weakness, and supplements for the deficient energy of the living principle, the law within us. Let them then be reserved for those momentous acts and duties in which the strongest and best balanced natures must feel deficient, and where humility no less than prudence prescribes deliberation. Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Persons attempting to find a motive in this narrative will be prosecuted. Persons attempting to find a moral in it will be banished. Persons attempting to find a plot in it will be shot. By order of the author per G.G., Chief of Ordnance, Mark Twain. The people, and the people alone, are the motive force in the making of world history. Mao Zedong. The mingled incentives which lead to action are often too subtle and lie too deep for us to analyze. Johann Caspar Lavater. Man, it is not thy works, which are mortal, infinitely little, and the greatest no greater than the least, but only the spirit thou workest in, that can have worth or continuance. Thomas Carlyle. Man, it is not thy works, which are mortal, infinitely little, and the greatest no greater than the least, but only the spirit thou workest in, that can have worth or continuance. Thomas Carlyle. As the grand discord and harmony of the celestial bodies may be explained by the simple principles of gravity and impulse, so also in that more wonderful and complicated microcosm, the heart of man, all the phenomena of morals are perhaps resolvable into one single principle, the pursuit of apparent good, for although customs universally vary, Yet the man in all climates and countries is essentially the same. Charles Caleb Colton. Credit leads a man into temptation. Cash down is the only thing that will deliver him from evil. Solomon Northup. Cruel and cold is the judgment of man, cruel as winter and cold as the snow, but by and by will the deed and the plan be judged by the motive that lieth below. John L. Bates. Prudent men lock up their motives, letting familiars have a key to their hearts, as to their garden. William Shenstone. Men's minds are as variant as their faces. Where the motives of their actions are pure, the operation of the former is no more to be imputed to them as a crime, than the appearance of the latter, for both, being the work of nature, are alike unavoidable. George Washington. Iago's soliloquy, The Motive Hunting of a Motiveless Malignity, How Awful It Is, Samuel Taylor Coleridge. God made man go by motives, and he will not go without them, any more than a boat without steam or a balloon without gas. Henry Ward Beecher. Pure motives do not ensure perfect results. Christian Nestle Bovee. The motives of the best actions will not bear too strict an inquiry. It is allowed that the cause of most actions, good or bad, may be resolved into the love of ourselves, but the self-love of some men inclines them to please others, and the self-love of others is wholly employed in pleasing themselves. This makes the great distinction between virtue and vice. Jonathan Swift. One should guard against preaching to young people success in the customary form as the main aim in life. The most important motive for work in school and in life is pleasure in work, pleasure in its result, and the knowledge of the value of the result to the community. Albert Einstein. Marcel Proust shut out visitors from his cork-lined room, where he wrote, but he probably expected to be immortalized in the literary canon. Even the most introverted drives and motives are set in a social context and amplified by the potential for achieving fame. Tyler Cowen. However much I may sympathize with and admire worthy motives, I am an uncompromising opponent of violent methods even to serve the noblest of causes. Mahatma Gandhi. To withdraw me from me has ever been my sole, my entire, my sincere motive in scribbling at all. Lord Byron. One who faces and who fears the right things and from the right motive, in the right way and at the right time, possesses character worthy of our trust and admiration. Aristotle. You will find in politics that you are much exposed to the attribution of false motives. Never complain and never explain. Stanley Baldwin. My sole motive is to inform the public as to that which is done in their name and that which is done against them. Edward Snowden. If you are kind, people may accuse you of ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. Mother Teresa. The beginning of self-knowledge, recognizing that your motives are the same as other people's. Mason Cooley. I don't necessarily find superheroes in general, for me, that appealing. I much prefer to play, if I was to be cast in a superhero film, it prefers to play the villain because there's a reason, there's a motive behind their madness. Ryan Quanten. But behavior in the human being is sometimes a defense, a way of concealing motives and thoughts, as language can be a way of hiding your thoughts and preventing communication. Abraham Maslow. His appearance, in reality, a hidden masquerade, Justin Bienvenu.